Welcome back, students. I am your SST teacher Vandana Joshi and you are watching SST June. Students, today here I am going to include some important topics from the chapter The Making of the National Movement 1870s to 1947 and the chapter India After Independence. These are some main important points from this chapter through which we will revise both the chapters. Now let's start. So first we will discuss a few points from the chapter about the national movement and the independence, in which the national movement was started from the revolt of 1857, which was the turning point in the history, where the national movement, which was after 1885, which was a nation in the making. As you learned that due to the oppressive attitudes of the British, the India and Indian peoples realized their own strength, and thus the spirit of nationalism was infused into them, which ultimately led them to the independence. From 1885 until we got independence in 1947, there were many such incidents occurred that were very important. Here we shall study those events and some important points from this chapter. So first incident was the formation of the political organization after the revolt of 1857. Now the Indian began forming political organization to discuss their problems and put forward the demands like the Pune Sarvajanik Sabha, the Indian National Association, the modern Mahajan Sabha and the Bombay Presidency Association. And later, it was the National Congress. These associations had an all-Indian character, though they often had regional names. So, as a result, after the passing few acts like Arms Act 1878, which was prevented Indians from carrying arms, Vernacular Press Act, which was also passed in the same year, 1878, curbed freedom of the press, and the Albert Bill of 1883, according to which British people could not be tried by Indian judges. The bill had to be withdrawn because of the widespread opposition to it. The withdrawal of the bill exposed the racist attitude of the British in India. So out of these all things, the great incident was the formation of Indian National Congress. As a reaction to all this, Indian National Congress was established in Bombay in December 1885. 72 delegates from all over the country met here. A retired British official, A.O. Hume, played an important role in bringing Indians from various regions together. Some of the leaders of the early nationalist movement were Dadabhai Nauroji, Firoz Shah Mehta, and W.C. Banerjee, R.C. Dutt, Surendranath Banerjee, S. Subramanian Iyer. Many were theirs. The Congress from 1888 to 1905 was dominated by the moderates. The moderate leaders believed in requesting the British government to introduce reforms in India. The moderates' phase has often been called a period of demand, concession, compromise. They had faith in British rule and believed that if they presented their demand to the British would agree to fulfill their demands. They were called the Naramdal or moderates. Then after that, the moderates, few were there, those were not agreed with the moderates. They later changed into the radicals or the extremists. At the ending of the 19th century was very important in the national movement as some new trends began in the period. Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Bipin Chand Pal, popularly known as the Lal Bal Pal, were responsible for bringing these new trends. Unlike the moderates, they were bringing to explore more radical methods and the objectives. The member of this group generally referred to as extremists or radicals. were mostly from the middle class and the lower middle class. They were also called the Garam Dal. And there was extreme discontentment among the Indians. The British added fuel to the fire by making thoughtless decisions and the policies. There were lots of thoughtless decisions and policies, out of which one such decision was the Partition of Bengal. So, Partition of Bengal, Lord Curzon came to India in 1905. He was not sympathetic towards the Indians and adopted many policies to suppress the rising of national movement. But the roast and most hated accepted and done by Curzon was Partition of Bengal into two parts, that is Eastern Bengal and the Western Bengal. The British justified the partition by saying that for administrative convenience they had divided Bengal. However, the real reason might have been to divide the Hindus and the Muslims and weaken the national movement, which was strongest in Bengal. But later, many movements were also there, like in the town hall in Calcutta, that few Indians were decided the Swadeshi and boycott movement, and many other were there which were against the British ideology. After that, one more incident was, that is the formation of Muslim League, that is of 1906. In 1906, a Muslim delegation represented by Aga Khan and Nawab Salimullah met Lord Minto, the Viceroy that time. They requested for the formation of Muslim organization which would serve the Muslim interest. As this demand was in tune with the British intentions, so no objection was raised by the British, and they did it. They allowed the Muslim League. But after so many suppressions by the Britishers, there was a mass growth of the nationalism. Gradually, the struggle against the British rule became a mass movement. It involved students, peasants, tribals, and women, factory workers, and the later businesses groups too. The First World War began in 1914, and the Indian leaders decided to support the British, hoping that the British would repay this service and self-rule. In 1916, when the First War was in the full swing, the Indian leaders thought there was a need to intensify the national movement and press for more concession. Two Home Rule League were started in 1916, one under Tilak and the another under N.V. Singh. They both demanded self-government. The two leagues became very popular. Among the other prominent members of this league were Pandit Motilal Nehru and Chittaranjan Das. But after that, it was in the boom up of the time of Gandhi, which was also known as the Gandhian era, after 1919 to 1948. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi arrived in India from South Africa in 1915 and became the leader of the masses. His prior experience of South Africa, leading Indians in non-violence marches against racist restrictions, had made him an international leader. He has used his two weapons, that is Satyagraha and the non-violence. After the Gandhian era, many incidents took places. Like first was the Rollet Act and Satyagraha in 1919. According to this act, this government had the authority to arrest and imprison anyone without a trial if suspected of terrorism. The act was ill-famed as a Black Act. Later, the Jallianwala Bagh massacre in 1999. In 1919, the people of Punjab took part in the national movement openly. And then after that, when the leaders of Punjab, Satyapal and Dr. Saifuddin Kishlu, were arrested on 10th of April 1919. So for that, the people of Punjab, they started a meeting in the Jallianwala Bagh. The leader or military commander of Amritsar, General Dyer, came with his troops and occupied the only entrance, then ordered his troops to fire at the crowded area without any warning. So, according to the Congress, more than 1,000 people were killed, while another 2,000 were injured. However, the government put the casualties at less than 400. Another thing after Jallianwala Bagh, that is the Khilafat movement of 1920. Turkey was defeated in the First World War and the Turkish Empire was divided between England and the French. The Khalifa was deprived of his authority. There were protests in India by Muslims and the Khalifa was regarded by them as the religious head. The Khilafat movement was led by Shaukat Ali and Muhammad Ali, known as Ali Brothers. Gandhiji supported this movement and he saw it as a chance to unite the Hindu and Muslim in India. So it took place in India as a Khilafat movement. Later, Gandhiji also launched the same movement with the name of Non-Cooperation Movement in 1920. Then, after that, the development of the different party in 1922 to 29 after arrested of Mahatma Gandhi, and we can say after the incident of Chauri Chaura in 1922. It was a small village in Uttar Pradesh named Chauri Chaura. On February 5, 1922, the police fired at a demonstrator there. The demonstrator got angry and set the police station fire. In this incident, lots of violence was there, so Gandhiji took its responsibility and got arrested. And after his imprisonment, many parties were formed like Swaraj Party, RSS, which is also known as the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, Communist Party. The Simon Commission was also there during that time, in which the slogan was very famous, that is, "Go back Simon." But after that, many revolutionary movements were there, and also a famous movement was known as the Dandi March and Civil Disobedience Movement. Dandi March. In March 12, 1930, Gandhiji started a historical salt march from his ashram in Sabarmati in Ahmedabad to Dandi, a village on western sea coast of India, with 78 other members of his ashram. They reached Dandi on April 6, covering over 240 miles on foot and picked up a handful of salt. And they broke the salt law. Salt was such a commodity which was consumed by the rich and poor alike. The march was started by Gandhiji and it was for the salt, so it is also known as the Salt March. Then after that, a civil disobedience movement was also started under the leadership of Gandhiji. The record mass movement with the demand of Purna Swaraj. The success of this movement made the British realize the need to negotiate with the Indians. And then after that, a Gandhi-Irwin Pact was also there in 1931. Later, after that, the Quit India movement, and after that, India got the independence. In the Quit India movement, All Indian Congress Committee at a meeting in Bombay, which was passed a resolution in August 1942, in which they give a slogan of Quit India movement. And toward independence and partition, in 1947, India got the independence on 15th of August 1947. And then after that, India also got its division into two parts, that is India and Pakistan, done by Lord Mountbatten. Then the later story is in the next chapter, which is the India after independence. As India recently got independence and it was divided in two parts, religion wise, that is Hindus and the Muslims. Lots of problems were there. So partitions and the influx of the refugees were there. After partition, a massive exchange of population took place between the two countries. So millions of Hindus and Sikhs living in different states and the regions of Pakistan like West Punjab, Northwest Frontier, provinces, Balochistan, East Bengal, now Bangladesh, and Sindh migrated to India. Simultaneously, millions of Muslims migrated from India to Pakistan. Around lots of people, they were homeless, many were killed, and lots of people were refugees who were coming up in and going out. The Indian army swung into action to provide humanitarian assistance at a massive scale. The Indian government soon came out with a plan to rehabilitate the refugees and took prompt action to fulfill their basic needs. After that, the next task was to integrate the princely states. So, till independence, a large part of India was under the British government and was referred to as British India. There were many states called princely states that were ruled by Maharajas or Nawabs. A few territories were under the control of the French and the Portuguese. According to Indian Independence Act of 1947, monarchy was abolished and the princely states had to join either India or Pakistan. The first Home Minister of Free India, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, tactfully persuaded most of the princely states to accede to India. Those states that hesitated to join India were Junagadh, Hyderabad and Kashmir. Junagadh is a small state of the coast of Kathiawar, Gujarat. Later it was joined with India, and same like that Kashmir and other part also. And then after that, the next thing was around with a population of 345 million divided on the basis of their caste, language, faith and the culture. It was not that easy to make them live together under the one country and a united nation. So it is a very tactful and a difficult task for Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. This we are going to see. But before that, one incident was there, that is the Gandhiji's martyrdom. On January 30, 1948, Rashtrapita Mahatma Gandhi was shot dead by Nathuram Godse while he was about to address a prayer meeting in New Delhi. And then after that, another one thing, the important point from this chapter, that was the formation of the Indian Constitution. The Constituent Assembly was formed in 1946 with the representative from different parts of India and from different political parties. The main architect of the Indian Constitution was Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who was the chairman of the drafting committee as well. He believed that political democracy had to be accompanied by social and economic democracy. A series of meetings were held between 1946 to 1949 to discuss the features of the Constitution. The Constitution came into effect on 26 January 1950, and Constitution is adopted the universal adult franchise as well, which means right to vote, in which this is given to all citizens above the age of 18 years irrespective of gender, class or education, right to vote. And then after that, next task was formation of states. This was another problematic area because the Indian National Congress has promised each major linguistic group its own provinces in 1920s. But after independence, the main aim of the leaders was to prevent any further division of country. Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru and Deputy Prime Minister Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel were opposed to the idea of linguistic state and believed that it was imperative for India to be united. This decision created a great deal of resentment among linguistic groups. However, the strongest protest came from the Telugu-speaking district of the Madras Presidency, who wanted an Andhra state. In Andhra, a Gandhian named Poti Sriramalu went on a hunger strike demanding the formation of an Andhra state and died on the 58th day of his hunger strike. But later, many states was formed on the basis of their linguistic area and after that their physical structure of the area. So, this was done to form compact provincial for Assami, Bengali, Odia, Tamil, Malayalam, Kannada and Telugu speakers. Boundaries were also redrawn in North India to create several states. In 1960, Bombay was divided into two bilingual states of Marathi and Gujarati speakers. Punjab too was divided in 1966 into Punjab and Haryana. Means there were a different type of divisions of the country, but these were united under one umbrella. Then after that, as development was also required for the country, so planning for development was also there. One of the major area that needed attention was economical growth. In 1950, the government set up the Planning Commission, and Jawaharlal Nehru was its ex officio chairman. Then after that, the Planning Commission replaced by Niti Aayog. And India was having its foreign policy as well, in which 5 principles were there. That is fostering cordial relations with other countries, and second, solving conflicts by peaceful means. Third, sovereignty and equality of all nations. Fourth, independence of thought and action as per the principle of non-aligned movement or NAM. And fifth is equality in conducting international relations. Then after that, few countries are there. India having its relationship with these neighbor countries, and that is also under the foreign policy. The detail of this revision video, I am providing the link of the previous original video in the description box. You can check the detailed video from there. And now, in the condition of today's scenario, India is totally much developed as compared to its independence. All important aspects were completed, as the food shortage was there. So for that, agricultural development, green revolution and other things were there. India is now a global country, which is now again going to be developed in the various aspects. Despite such a vast diversity, we are a single nation, and this feeling of unity is increasing with each passing day. So students, here the revision of this chapter is complete. I am providing you the link of these two chapters in the description box, the previous original links.